What is our today's date?
10th.
February 10th.
2/10/2023. Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining. Councilmember Sean is unable to make it. He is currently sick, so we wish him the best as he continues to get better, but he will not be making it this morning. So what this work session is for is to be able to give some direction to myself, staff, and general discussion within you guys to figure out what you would like to do with the small area study that is Historic Village. It has been directed by council again, just as a reiteration that the EDA is supposed to be manning this project and kind of taking the forefront of it, but it's not starting from total scratch, starting from the Historic Village Framework Plan, which has been provided to everybody here. And if you have any questions, we'll go through that, but otherwise just general discussion on what the process we want to be. It's basically what I need to get today to ensure we are all on the same page as we move forward. I don't want this process to take us 6 months to get through because it just seems that it gets very slow traction, and so having a documented process is going to help everybody, including myself and you guys, to understand when the process should be done. We can do this either one of two ways. We can either do it within ourselves and go through the process of reorganizing it and stuff. We can utilize the city planner once he starts. He starts in the middle of March. So we can utilize his services to try to reorganize or reassess what we want to do as the framework plan and having an actual plan down, very similar to that. Or we can have a third party do it. And that's the first answer I need as staff to figure out if I need to go find and do an RFP to figure out who's going to do it for us, like an Ehlers or another company. I'm just using Ehlers because that's the one on top of my head, but another company that will be able to help us redevelop and create another framework plan, as you call it, or a small area study. Or we do it, like I said, within ourselves. The next object that I need to get done is to figure out what the process you want to be after that. When do you want to get the residents involved? Do you want to get the residents involved? At what point? When do we bring a plan that we think is going to be good and then bring it to them and then have them pick it apart? Or we have them go first and say, here's the framework plan. What don't you like or do you like about that plan? And then go from there. So we could hold those things at the activity center down there. Happy to do those for this process to be able to get resident feedback. I think is very important. And as again, just a note, I know that Sean was looking at it earlier, but this was done in 2004. So it has been almost 20 years since this thing has been revisited. So a lot of the facts that are in there may not be 100% accurate with what you're reading through on that framework plan. So I will hand it back to you guys, and I will be here to take notes.
What about doing a, like for the residents, you said have a meeting down there, some sort of like a checkbox questionnaire, what's important to you? And we have 10 or 15 different things on there, right? And we see what gets the most responses.
I was thinking somewhat along those lines. To me, just talking to some of the people, I mean, I talked to a few of the people down there. I think if you took and had a meeting to begin with the 2004 plan and say, this was what they came, whomever came up with in 2004. Now, then go to what's important to you, kind of, like, what do you like about it, what don't you like about it, what would you change, that kind of thing, but maybe structured so you're not all over the board. Mm-hmm. And then at least we get some direction on, like what kinds of things, because this isn't a bad plan, it's just, is it the right plan or whatever, and so that might give us some good direction. I mean, my guess is people are going to come back with they would like to see some improvements, but they don't necessarily want it. They're not going to endorse a wipe the slate clean kind of an approach where you're just like tearing down every house in town and restarting over. Mm-hmm. But so I think that would be a good idea to get their input up front on what already exists.
Well, the biggest thing to get from the people is anybody wanting to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't pay to put a plan together if nobody's going to do anything for 25 years.
Well, right, and I mean, I think that's part of our responsibility is like what realistically could be accomplished in the next 10 years or 15 years. I mean, I've got some thoughts that, from a perspective of like what would be actually doable, but I think that then that kind of comes back to also like picking that third party and saying, what is doable. Like if you had to increase the size of the sewer line, what are we talking about, just down Main Street? Are you talking about everything? Are you talking, is it just the trunk line? How long is that? Do you want high density just on both sides of Main Street and let the rest be residential, which kind of where my head's at, but all those things, I think you can look through and say, is that something that's realistic versus maybe more to the plan that Tim McNeil shared with us, which is a little more
Which plan, the original plan or his plan?
his plan.
Oh.
That's what I said, the plan that Tim McNeil shared.
This is the official.
This
This is the official plan.
And this is the one we should be talking about,
No,
period.
I'm just contrasting that other plan was more robust. I mean, it's more like a 25 or 50-year plan where you're trying to buy properties and you're holding everything for 50 years from now,
I think, talking with the my gut feeling is a lot of the residents, as we were talking earlier, they're elderly, they've been there a long time. I don't know if they want a lot of change, right? Do they really, well, they've lived with it the way it was for the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Whatever. So,
Haven't we asked for feedback from the residents before in the
No.
past? No?
Well, not that we're aware of.
Not for.
Yeah, not that or maybe during this plan, but again, that was
Yeah.
2004. That was 20 years ago. I don't think they've done anything
No.
since then. There was a Minnesota design team thing, which I think I sent out.
Yeah.
That was done in
15.
2015, but I don't know how much resident feedback was done with that versus a bunch of architectures and engineers and designers come in and say, here's what looks best in total. I think it was moving like the old schoolhouse down there, using it as a boathouse and all kinds of other stuff that I don't think we can even physically do anymore because it's on the historic registry. But some of those things are just like, I don't know if they had any resident feedback. But
It was basically a wish list from the design team on what this is what you could do.
Sure. They did have a big, if I remember right, didn't they have a big meeting over here at the school?
Yep.
And then they showed everybody everything, and they actually had people go up and like say what they liked and not, and they put, those exercises where you put dots on the board, like, do you like this? And they put the dots. So they did do
Yeah,
that.
I just don't know if it was
don't think
focused
anything
around
came
people.
from it.
Yeah, I don't think it was focused on the actual area. I think it was
No.
focused citywide.
Whole Dayton, yeah.
So
it was.
the problem with that is that people in a historic village just honestly they stay in their historic village. They
Yeah.
don't typically care what happens in the rest of the city, and vice versa. Is that the rest of the city, like people on the Brayburn Trails and Sundance Greens and Sundance Woods area on the south end of Dayton,
Whatever you do.
they don't know what even the historic village probably even is, unless they
Right.
go there for heritage days. That's
Right,
about
that's it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Probably the only time they go there.
Yeah.
That's where but I agree with the comment that have we gotten it? I think in the past, but I don't know if we focused it on there like we would. That's what staff is suggesting to do is focus it on that area because they are the ones that are going to be vested or not vested in the process.
Yeah. I remember, from what I remember of that last one, like the focus really came out was more like, trails and parks and all that kind of stuff. And then that's when we did the stuff about the branding of the city and, the whole live the difference stuff and all that came out of that whole thing. If I remember right.
That's correct.
I think our first question is, are we gonna run this or are we gonna have someone run it for us?
That's
The
We
study?
really gotta get to that point first.
The study?
yes.
I see no reason for a study unless you decide, well, come up with what the residents want to see. If if these people aren't looking at selling for 20, 30 years, a study today does absolutely no good. Because my experiences with studies, we do them every 3, 4, 5 years, and they're obsolete. Because somebody's got a brighter, bigger.
Well, I mean, Lucero and a couple other people own a fair amount of the property already, and I think
That's who you visit with is those
yeah,
people.
and I mean, I think they should definitely be involved in it. And I think the other thing is that the people that are left for the homestead, that's what we were talking about earlier, I think are elderly. Whether they have 20, 30 years left, I don't know. But you see every year someone else passes and then the house gets sold or the kids buy
Right.
it or whatever,
Kids buy it and sell it, or the kids inherit it and get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that could be accomplished by mailers. That's
Yeah.
no problem to do the mailing thing of, yeah, when are you looking to move? Are you looking to downsize? Are you looking to change what you do? Blah, whatever, we can come up with questions. That's no problem at all. And send a mailer out.
I think we
We don't
should
get
not be
100%
just
response
looking.
ever with those things, but.
Just go out and knock on doors. And
I
just
mean, I
ask
think the
people to fill out a
input of the
survey.
residents is important, but I think we also, as a economic development authority, ought to be looking at what's the future of the city. I mean, like, do we just want like this little eyesore and a real, I mean, it's a great location. You got two rivers, I mean, very unusual topographically. And are you just gonna say, well, we'll just let it deteriorate to whatever, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we gotta have some future looking from an economic development perspective.
Well,
Could
you
it be anything more than
you
it
have
is
that.
today?
Well,
I
this,
think
this
yes.
falls under HRA. This ain't an EDA problem.
I thought
this
we
is-
were both.
Well, we are, but I mean,
Yeah.
you keep saying EDA. Is this an HRA deal? Housing
would-
redevelopment?
Depends on if it's business oriented or if it's housing oriented.
So we should decide if it's gonna be a business or.
Well,
But
we sell houses, so it's,
yeah, you guys are both, so it doesn't really much matter. But in aspects of what the official body would be, housing would be Housing Redevelopment Authority, HRA.
It's
versus
both,
the Economic
really.
Development Authority as the EDA. And that typically those run in right in parallel, and it's always the same body because they run into so many issues of, well, is it commercial, is it business, is it housing? Because they all typically run together. As soon as business comes in, that's when housing comes in. Or if you put housing there, that's when business comes into play. So they run so closely.
I know they're listed separately in the state.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So you can have one. Like once you get to a certain level of a city, then we would have two different boards and be able to
bodies.
work together. But it's
I
getting
think if
there.
you zoom in on that particular area, I mean, the area that really has the need for redevelopment is just right along Robinson Street. I mean,
I didn't mean to put that.
the rest of it, I don't know. What do you want to? You're not going to take out all these houses. I mean, most of the houses as you come back from the Robinson Street are decent homes for the most part.
These ones out here.
I mean, some aren't, but no, I'm talking. If you go right downtown,
Okay, yeah.
so by the bar, right?
right, go zoom in right where the bar is at or whatever. And if you look from the corner where it turns all the way down to the river, if you really zoom in, you'll see that it's just really Main Street that you're talking, Robinson Street that you're talking about.
You want to closer in. Sorry, I mean to work by everybody. Oh, there we go. So. yeah.
I mean, and the way I look at it is, what would you do? Why, you might widen Robinson Street and slant it or whatever parking on it, and then you'd zone everything along Robinson Street as more commercial /
Retail.
and leave the rest of it alone, like the behind Robinson Street, beyond that, let it be.
So am I hearing from you, Jack, that?
I don't think it would
Like
take-
Scott, we don't need to send this out and have someone give
No,
us.
I think we have to have some discussion about what we think is the right approach so that we can give direction to a third party, because if you just say, oh, let's see what this could be, you're gonna get the
You're gonna get
Tim
the big-
McNeil plan, or
Yeah.
you're gonna get that's what I'm saying, is like, you're gonna go away with this huge study and they're gonna come back and they're gonna wanna move the school, the old,
For 100 million,
schoolhouse
you can have
down
this.
there, and they're gonna, and I'm not saying
Sounds like
any
a
of that
deal.
stuff's bad, I'm just saying,
What's holding us back?
I think what you guys are concerned about is coming up with an elaborate study that's never going to happen. Where
Right.
It's like the 50-year vision, and by the time you get to 50 years, it's going to be
It's been
totally
Right.
redone.
I mean,
like-
right
just like
now,
this one.
look at that. That's a beautiful plan, but it's 20 years old. And then absolutely nothing has happened on that plan in 20 years.
And so I think what you guys are more concerned about is the next 10 years. Let's just
Right.
focus on 10
Right.
years.
What can
can
we
be
do
done
in the next 10 years?
And actually get some information from residents, which I think is a great
I
option.
think
to go
that's the
start
best
with.
option.
Best way to start, and then we can go from there. If we get feedback from the residents that they love this plan, and that's great, then I don't think we need to have somebody do a third-party study. But if we get feedback that they actually hate this plan, there's no way it's ever going to happen, whatever, in 10 years, we only have 4 landowners that want to do anything down there, then we just, I guess, go back to
Do
the
it
drawing
slow,
board,
whatever.
Do it slowly and say, okay, then maybe we do some other sort of third party to come in and help us design it. But I don't think a bad first step is to get a meeting with the residents. I don't think that's bad. I just want to get direction from the EDA before I take any actual.
Then how are we gonna execute this plan over 10 years? Like,
Well-
even if we came up with this great little plan, we're gonna widen the road, get some more little shops
You wouldn't
downtown.
you wouldn't be widening the road for 2 or 3 businesses. I mean, economically, it just doesn't cash flow, doesn't
No,
make
you
any
would be
sense.
doing it in the hopes that all of it would fill, you know, that it would fill in, that's the whole. I mean, you're not gonna have, it's the chicken or egg thing, right? You know, you're not gonna have the businesses before you do the upgrades.
Within reason, I mean, there's some, you could take these 3 red ones or a couple of these blue ones. I mean, Lucero owns all of that blue, and I know for a fact he'd like to do something with some of it. I don't know what his
Yeah.
cash flow situation is, I have no idea.
I think-
But I know he's not gonna do 5 of them at one time.
No.
So no matter, I don't think you need to upgrade anything to get 3 or 4 different things going on. And 3 or 4 different things going on in the next 10 years would be a big deal.
So
Way
you
bigger
think-
than this.
You think without doing anything, Lucero's gonna tear down the houses he owns and put something up on Main
Absolutely.
Street?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there goes our study, because if you're gonna send out this questionnaire to these people who live there, and he's gonna tear their houses out.
No,
Well, it
he's
depends on
not
the-
tearing their house, he can't tear their house.
No, the houses
He's
that
tearing
he
the
owns.
houses he
He's
owns.
taking the houses.
Well, he rents these. There's your,
There's
your
nothing
nice-
on, there's nothing on any of these.
Again,
Right
we-
now, it's mixed, and he could do anything, right?
He can do anything.
I mean,
well,
so-
technically that's within mixed use, which is so whatever. That's what I. That's,
Right, that's what,
You
to
can
me,
do
that's
whatever you
the very
want, yeah.
first thing, is like, if you have a vision of what you want it to look at, then you put the right zoning in for what it should be.
Yep.
Then he can only build,
And
or
the
anybody
city has
can only
ultimate control
build
over it.
what.
That's what the feedback from the residents is for. Is that yes, Lucero can, and we would do it at a block at a time. That would be the
Yep.
suggestion from the city: is do it at a block at a time. When we do a block, then we can add the 45-degree parking on the side. We can get
Right.
back the more right of way. We can do that all at one time. You cannot do it one house at a time because there's no way it'll ever happen.
Right.
But you do one block at a time, get the 45-degree parking if that's what we want to have long term. But Lucero doesn't, or anybody doesn't just come in and go wipe it clean and go, that's
Yeah.
what I'm putting there and that's it.
No
That's-
authority there.
Yeah, there's no authority there. That's why the meeting with the residents, I think, is super important because if
Right.
they don't feel that a mixed-use area of apartment buildings above and shops below are going to work, then if they come in and say that's going to work, and we go, nope, that's not what our residents want. They want to have commercial fronts, or they want to have a caribou down there, or whatever. Now we know, and we can direct them to say that's what we need to do, and they don't get to decide that.
As they
As
should.
in the developers
Yeah.
don't get to decide that, the city does, or the EDA does.
Right now, he's a developer. So what do we wanna do? Do we wanna tweak this plan and be us as the, because again, if you, like you said, we spend money on it and it doesn't do nothing in 20 years, we're wasting money. Let's save the city some money and,
Well, the first thing is before even the plan, before you talk about the plan, you gotta visit with them people and find out what's the appetite.
I want your question answered, though, I think, Chair, is that we need to figure out, okay, are we gonna do it, or are we gonna have somebody else do it, or are we gonna wait to decide that until we have X, Y, Z done, which is.
I think if we're gonna
what's-
do anything, we should have someone else do it. The question I think that maybe is being brought up is like, are we gonna do anything? And if we're gonna do something, then we'll probably need a third party to help drive what we're gonna do. You know, help not only develop what we're gonna do, but then drive it, but. I mean,
There has to be, we have to have steps here, so I need steps to take so we can make action happen, because we want
and
action.
we ain't doing motions here, right?
Sure, or
No.
consensus, doesn't have to be official motions, just
Okay.
consensus within the group of
Just
what our
direction.
steps are, yeah.
So, show of hands, who wants to send it out? Okay.
eventually.
Maybe 10 or 20 years from now,
Okay.
10 years from now.
Well, I wanna make sure
I
we
don't see
wanna
the
do
point now.
something
It's
first,
wasting
but once
money.
we wanna do something, then I think
I
you
think
gotta get a
I think
third
I'm
party.
gathering
involved.
that the first step we want to do, and let me know if I'm wrong, is that we want to have resident feedback first. That's
Absolutely.
the first,
Yes.
first exact step.
I would say that's our second step.
Okay, what would you say is our first step?
Our first step is do we really like this plan? And if we are going to have a meeting, what are we going to be pitching to the residents? Because I would say that we don't have a meeting with the residents and say, What do you guys think we should do?
No, that'll be a disaster.
We need to come up with.
No, you just say that, here's the plan that was drawn up. What in this do you like?
And what this means is that we're gonna have to redo the water and sewer, and this is how it's gonna impact you, but in the long run, this is the plan that we are taking forward. What do you guys think of it?
Well, and that's the one thing I agree with you, and I think the one thing we gotta just make sure we have our facts straight before we say, we're gonna have to redo the water and sewer. We think we probably will, but it probably depends on what we do, right?
And how soon you do it,
does.
absolutely. it
I
does.
mean, because
You start squeezing density in there, you're gonna need more pipe.
probably, but the question is how much density? Are you just talking about right along Robinson Street, or are you, and would that require additional sewer? Or are you talking about the whole damn village being high density? Then that would require additional sewer. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, we don't want to say to people, this is what has to be done when we don't even know.
Sure.
Well, we already know that we already know that we could get 30 to 40 residentials without upgrading
I would say
anything.
50 equivalent units,
Yeah,
which would be, I don't know, commercial uses how much more than a residential, but
Yeah, I know.
roughly-
Commercials use less water than residentials.
Sure. So so if you wipe out a couple homes and you add a couple commercials, that might add to that equivalent unit of. I'm going to use 50 as the. I know for sure we can get
Right.
50 equivalent units on that.
Well,
Something
then the
similar to
other
that.
question that comes to my mind is like, okay, we know that the trunk line, I guess it is
That is the limiter.
that's the limiter.
So where the hell is the trunk line, and how much actually has to be replaced
Right down.
in order to make this work? So
Oh.
is it just right down Robinson Street?
Yep.
And the rest of the sewer that went to all these houses all over doesn't have to be redone. It's just this one trunk line. So what are we talking about? So that, to me, that's what's important, to really be able to be honest with people and say, this is what would need to be done. And I think there's a little
There may need
homework
to be bits and pieces depending on what gets put on certain areas, but the entire arterial system does not need to be done.
Right.
Just the main trunk line, which is right underneath Robinson Street, and was done during the county project in 2000, 1999, 2000, when they redid the road, in conjunction with the county.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue with this whole thing is that we have to coordinate with the county as well. It cannot be just a city
County
thing.
road, yeah.
And it's a county road, so that's the biggest and hardest issue, is that if we rip up the street, put the sewer in that works, now who replaces the street? Is that us or is that the county? Or how much will the county assist us with
What
this?
did they do last time?
I don't remember exactly, I'd have to go back and look, so I don't wanna say anything, but I believe we did utilities, they did the street.
And the county just repaved that here, a couple of years ago? Last year even, about 2 years
I
ago.
don't remember exactly.
So they're not gonna wanna tear that street up for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and if we, I don't remember when that was redone.
It was
so
just redone.
If that's the case, then most likely they may allow us to do it, but it's going to be on our
Our
dime,
nickel.
not on theirs. Yep. But we have to ask them first before we do anything. Fortunately, and if we want to put a sign on that road, if we want to do anything on that road, we have to have county authority before.
Kind of sounds like our first step then.
Yep, we can do that.
Because if we start to figure out, plan everything around a pipe that we're gonna put in, that can't be done, then we have to work with what we got.
Well, and maybe the first step is to determine, like, if you were to put commercial along Robinson, more or less, if you assumed that was gonna be commercial, and you take those houses out, do you have the capacity or don't?
Might.
Well, then you'd have to, if you're gonna take all them houses out. You don't have any choice.
Well, there's not that many houses there.
I mean, what do you mean you don't have any choice to?
You can't take all them houses out and put commercial in and without upgrading the pipe.
Yeah, but you're gonna, if you take away a house,
gain
you're adding to
You're
the
adding
capacity.
Yep.
So if you took away,
If you just could physically add things, then obviously that's a total addition.
Yeah.
But if you take away a house and add a commercial business, depending on what that business is, that might be a reduction.
Oh.
And then we'll have equivalent units, because you reduced the house usage, but then you,
I don't think there's more. if
12
you
units
zoom
on this
in, There's
side.
not more than about.
There's 13
20
on this
now.
side.
13.
yeah. So if you reduce, is it, say, you took every one of them out, that's 23. 13, no, take that, 25.
So
sorry,
now you're up to
25.
75
So
capacity
now
units.
you take out 25, but you add, I don't know how many businesses or
Yeah.
whatever you add. So
Right.
So you
you're maybe at
10
say,
or
yeah,
15
you may
or
have 10 or something. Yep. I'm just using round numbers here, but we have roughly 50 equivalent units that
Well, I mean,
are
and
for
if
sure
you
able
look
to
there-
go in the system.
Well, I mean, not everything on that street is houses. I mean, there's
There's some businesses.
some businesses. I mean, there are not many. The bar, my liquor store, the McNeil building is
in the post office.
the post office. You're not going to take probably the McNeil building down, I wouldn't think. It's already a multi-level building. It's probably the only multi-level building on the street, isn't it? I would guess.
Yeah, there's, what, 4 tenants in there?
I think there's 4 or 5, four apartments, I think.
Nothing below, right?
Nope, empty.
I don't think
Empty.
So the concept of this, where we got businesses on the bottom and rental on the top,
Right.
isn't working in his particular building. And he can't rent them out. I know he's been trying.
Yeah, well,
No,
that-
yeah.
that's just an
There
economic
has
deal.
been businesses on the lower level, but they haven't. You know, the one was the roofing guy.
It's
that
just an
came in.
economic deal. If you can't, once you put your auto shop up there, it probably won't
Yeah.
survive.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
That's
he
the
wasn't
point.
around very long. A
No.
year.
Not even 6 months, probably. He came in and had a great story, and then kind of just swindled a few people, mostly older people.
Which is why I don't see the point of
And
spending
McNeil
30,
himself,
40,000
I
on
don't
a
think he
study
ever paid
that
McNeil.
you might not use for 25 years.
I get it. That makes sense. And I agree with it.
Because if you get a coffee shop here, or a cafe, my deal is a cafe, that's the best thing. So I can go have breakfast
I figured you were hungry.
right
Sounds
there.
like a personal game.
Yeah, right. Well, I think a lot of no one goes there because there's nothing.
There's nothing there.
to go to.
And nothing will support anything.
So if there was things there,
The traffic count is there, I
The
believe.
traffic count's there. I mean, my
It's
store wouldn't
just-
survive without the traffic count, I
right?
don't think.
Oh, it's there because they're driving right through it on their way
the
to
traffic
Rogers.
count isn't going to go away because there's
No, it's always going to be better,
And
yeah.
always going to get increased as people find out that is maybe the easy way to get home into Otsego. As Otsego expands, it's going to be another additional way for them to get home. Because Otsego has a ton
Well,
of
you got
farmland
all
right
those
there.
houses coming up on the other
And
side of the
there's-
river, and then
Yep.
you know, down River Road this way. I mean,
It's only going
it's
to get
it's
increased.
going to just keep growing, and that's why I think instead of just saying, well, you know, let's just wait till something happens. If you're the catalyst to begin to make things happen. I mean, it could be as simple as that one on here, the walkthrough that goes from the river to the river. That street, if you develop just that, meaning like
You're talking about dead center Baxter Avenue.
yeah, Baxter. You just made that, you put a flashing light or a speed bump or whatever on Robinson or a stop sign there. I mean, that might be enough just to start to get people noticing the town. I mean, I don't think you have to do like major renovation to begin to start changing.
Or if we start
Yeah,
with
but
the
that still
roundabout.
comes down to what are they going to go to the town for?
Well-
I mean, yes,
No.
the liquor store, they're going to go grab their beer, but what else is there? What else is there that they're going to go see?
Meat raffle.
Nothing.
I mean,
Well, I mean,
the bar,
hopefully
I don't know
someday
if the
someone
bar-
will buy the bar and actually. I mean, I think the bar could actually do fairly well if it was actually open regular hours and, you know, had someone put some money into it. But I mean, otherwise, what you're going to get is like myself. We're just pull out of there. I'll move my liquor store to the other side of town. You know, I mean, why? Why stay?
Mhm.
And that's what I think what you've got with. I've got 1 year left on my lease, so I could pull out next year if I wanted to. And I think that's what you're going to get with what is there. It's just, you know, you see it in every small town. You're either growing or you're shrinking. And that town has had things in it in the past, just like a lot of small towns in America. Had a grocery store and several other things. What happened? Nothing was done. It shrinks down. Now we got population coming in. Are we going to make it something, or are we just going to leave it be an eyesore for the city? That's the question to me. Because if you do nothing, that's probably what will happen. And so to me, it's that combination of some city investment attracting private money in to do things. Because who's going to do the cafe? Who's going to do the coffee shop? Who's going to
Who do
do
you
any
entice
of
to
that
get in there?
stuff if the
Yeah,
city's
right.
doing nothing?
So how are we going to get the property to do this then?
Well, Lucero wants to do something, but he needs to Like he needs to join these two together to get it done. Because this little thing is not big enough to do anything. Or, I don't know what you put on, right on the corner, I mean, that's a considerably bigger lot, but what do you put there?
That was put there and bought by the city years ago to for the roundabout.
No,
What's that right there? Those two, what are those?
private.
Oh, yeah, so it's a one-off owner.
Okay.
The Smith
I tried my best to only include people who owned at least 3 lots in town.
And then what about right across the street? Those three.
Those are all homes, single-family homes.
Which three? Are you talking across
So-
from
Next to the blue,
McNeil?
next to the blue.
So
Yeah.
you get,
The
looks like
two
Brian
skinny
Bailey.
ones. And then I think it's
Brian
you right here, the
Bailey.
liquor store.
Okay, so yeah, so
Or
Brian
no?
Bailey owns 2, and then the next one over.
Well, I'm actually, I think where the McNeil, where it says
Yeah, he's in the
McNeil.
Yeah,
McNeil
he's in
building.
So he owns the
Okay.
big building,
Yep.
he owns the liquor store, and he owns the
House.
next house, which is where Carly lives.
Yep.
So those 3 are all McNeil.
Okay.
And
That whole block.
Yep, that block is McNeil.
And then if you go across the street, the one right there on the corner,
Lucero
that
owns that
one's
one?
Lucero, the next one's Lucero.
Yep.
The
So-
next 2 are kind of open
I believe
because
this
they're
one's
Lavasser.
Lucero. So this one's Lucero as well. This one's open or some other owner, and then
It's a lot, basically.
So then a good start would be like these 3 and these right here, right? Are they interested in selling? What if they say no? I'm not selling. Then and how do you even do any development if no one
you
wants?
have to do, like I said, it's got to be a block at a time. So
Right.
you have to try to figure out one block that'll work for everybody.
Mhm.
And whether
The only way you're gonna get that done is first you talk to everybody.
correct.
Yeah.
Well, and who's willing to
Is this
sell?
what we wanna do? Huh? Who's willing to talk?
Who's willing to sell their property?
Oh, right, that's what,
Oh, right.
that's
I mean, the
conversation,
first
that's how that
block, I
starts.
mean, based on what I know about ownership, the first block would be the McNeil and Lucero. But essentially, Lucero owns the whole block across the street from McNeil for the most part. And the guy that lives where you have it highlighted
Here,
right now
yeah.
is an older fellow, Lavasser, I think's his name. That block would be to me, would be the first block where you basically know who owns it. And both parties, McNeil and Lucero, are both in favor of doing something downtown.
Well, I bet they are because it would. Well, I bet they are. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest in either one of them, but I'm just saying they don't. I think their plan from the beginning is Lucero's been buying up these houses cheap, renting them, hoping that someday he could sell to some bigger developer or do it himself, one of the two.
Mhm.
And, kind of, that's, I think, their plan. I mean, I've not been told that, but that would be my supposition. And so I think you're going to have to involve those people because they've
Absolutely.
been investing money to kind of do what we're talking about, which is, and to me, what it really comes down to is like the zoning and that. What do you want along Main Street? To me, it would be commercial
And
businesses.
that's what is the second picture that I provided you, which is the purple. All of that purple area is GMU 3, which is right along Robinson Street, which that means it's general mixed use.
Which means anything could go there, right? From a
Anything.
single-family house to a.
General mixed use 3 is has to be a business or some sort of high density residential.
Okay.
So not just anything can go there, but
So maybe that's actually okay
that's,
then.
yeah. But then the brown is, I believe, RO, which is historic village zoning, which means that could be only a single family house. Again, this is current zoning, doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
The guided use is all mixed use.
So does
That's-
that answer our question on that one lot that we've been discussing forever? Because it looks like it's brown.
It is. Yep. That's the current zoning,
So that says the only thing that could
Mixed.
be built there today is single.
unless
family.
you're. So how it works is it's when it's going to be repurposed into a different product than it is currently. The zoning should match what the guided use is. So, for example, if somebody's going to sell their house and you're going to put a business there, the new business needs to match the current guided zoning. So, like when we're moving Eggland, then the south of Dayton, because that's just the most one that's happened recently, everything is ag. So then when you go to redevelop it or replat it, then you have to change it to the guided use, which could be low density or medium density or commercial or industrial. And as we said today, it's all mixed use in that area. So with mixed use, it just means it's a certain density issue and it's a
Well, so
more
the
business.
guided is mixed
So the
use.
guided is mixed
But
use.
the actual is this.
Actual is brown, yeah.
So then the guided is done by the 2040 plan.
Yeah, correct, yeah. But
That's kind of
the
an odd-
idea is it's all one area, so it meets densities in total, not by per lot. So typically you'd do a mixed area or mixed use, you'd put it on one lot, that's mixed use. Or a blob that you want to make it new, that's going to be mixed use. So like the 2040 comp plan, if you look at that, the guided land use might not actually end up with all of the boundaries of the land lot, but it would be, this general blob wants to be commercial. And all we have down here is mixed use, so what ends up happening is it all gets clumped together as mixed use. So could you fit a single family in there? Yes, you can, because technically that makes mixed use in the entire area. Now, if you took that comp plan and said, no, just this little area is going to be mixed use and the rest is going to be low density or medium density in that area, and specifically went by lot and told what the guided use would be, then we would have to do the guided use based on what we put in that area. Does that make sense? So because it's a blob, it's just in total. But if you put it by plot or by plat ID, or if you make it a certain area, like right along Robin Street, you want commercial, so that strip would be red in our comp plan.
Right.
And the rest would be, oh, that's going to be medium density, or that's going to be high density, or whatever it may be. Then that we'd have actual guided use of, here's what exactly needs to go in this area, and not just a blob of mixed use.
Hence why we asked you last time that this Levy Street deal, it's RO and it's mixed use, so we comply without being illegal.
Either way, yep.
Either way, you comply, yeah.
Yep. Either way, there's no
Under the
wrong answer.
guided, yeah.
Under the guided use, it meets everything.
And if we,
Under the existing, it wouldn't.
if we like the
fit.
plan where businesses, residential, you know, this whole deal, we start something, we light both side of this candle. We can get these guys going, we can get some of these guys going, we can start building downtown.
How about you go to McNeil and Lucero and say, here's what we're thinking about doing. Give us your plan. What do you want to do with these? And just see what they have to say.
Well,
What if-
McNeil's not doing anything, he ain't
Well,
got no
that's-
money.
But that's, well, that's, I
We're on
don't,
film.
but, I mean,
Unless he gets his
if you-
Oh,
if you-
Randall, for something in the mail later today.
but really, it's like, hey, we want to redevelop this area. You are a big part of this. What are you gonna do with, if this happens, what would you do with your property?
And when?
And when? Yeah, because
When
if
is
we
the
went
key?
through this whole thing and it all was approved and went through the study, and then the majority of the two landowners don't do anything, did that really solve any problems?
Spin your wheels.
Well, half your answer is already answered, because Lucero wants to do something and he's asking to do it now. He's already
But
asking.
not
to do
on
it.
Main Street, or
No.
Robin
No.
Street.
No, but he would-
But
I'm sure if we asked him to do something and we partner with him, he would be happy to do something.
What is he looking for? Lucero?
Well, he wants that lot.
The problem with Lucero is he doesn't have good direction. So the problem with him moving forward with anything is that he doesn't have good direction. If it's just mixed use and we say, yep, mixed use works, and he comes in with something and we say, nope, we don't have a plan, or we don't like that, or whatever.
See-
The idea is we don't have a concrete plan that we are backing to say this is what we want. And that's what Lucero wants.
see,
is-
to me,
Like-
that's part of the thing we should probably.
I think I know what I would push for, but, I mean, everybody's got to agree on it.
Correct.
Yeah, but I mean, if we, do, I mean, if you think about from the first
I
thing
wanna
is
know what you would
look at
push
the
for.
zoning.
From Lucero.
Oh.
Only from Lucero. I would sell him that Levy Street lot with the idea that he's putting 6 units there. And that, if you're not putting 6 units there, then you don't get it. I mean, I just say, this is your option. This is all you get to, it's either this or nothing.
Yeah.
So, because of what that 6 units fits exactly what we're looking for.
Right.
As a city.
And is anybody opposed to that here?
Define that.
Well, approaching Lucero and saying, we're willing to entertain your offer, but these are the stipulations. We want 6 units here.
Well, when it went out for
I want-
RFP, go ahead.
Yes.
I want 6 units attached,
Right.
which I know for a fact he wants them built unattached, because then he can build this one this year and this one 5 years from now. It might take 20 years to get all 5 units. Where?
So
There again.
the direction from that was once we figure out a plan,
Right.
go back to the RFP applicant and
Yep.
say, okay, here's what our plan's going to be. Do you want to do 4 attached units on your property? And if their answer is no, then we say, okay, that's what we need. So now we're going back to Lucero because we already approved an RFP
Right.
for an applicant, and
Yep.
so we cannot avoid that aspect. That we need to work with that applicant first before we say, no, now we're switching gears and going to
Right.
go with this whole
Right.
different thing.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna
That's
say.
what
My only opposition
screwed the
to
whole
it
thing
is
up.
that
Correct.
we don't, I mean, this whole mixed use thing is just like a cop out to say, okay, build whatever the hell you want.
Exactly.
And so to me, the first thing is to say, what do we want where? And if the lots where Lucero wants to build his 6 units attached, or what we want him to do is what we say we'd like that block or that area to be medium density or whatever that falls into, or high density, then let's zone it that way. Let's say the guided
Yeah,
use
guided
is
use,
commercial along Robinson Street, medium density in the next block, and residential the block after that, or whatever it is. And then we've got some.
Yeah, so there'll be a
Template.
we'll be doing a land use amendment for the city overall, once we get through this transportation plan amendment part of it, and that's on the
Right.
city side of things. But if we have a plan from the EDA that says this is what we want, and it gets kind of, I would say, because we have to check in with council to make sure that we're on the same page as council is. If you're good with it, then we can change all of that zoning instead of being mixed use to be exactly what you're telling us on the plan. If you want to have the plan to have commercial down the middle of Robert Street, that's fine. Then we'll change the zoning from being GMU3, I think is what the guided use is, which is General Mixed Use 3 Historic Village is the exact term. And we just change it to be commercial. And then when we do the land use amendment, then we'll just change it. So that now we have land use and it says it's gonna be commercial, and that's gonna be medium density, or.
Yeah.
But
And
it
then
has to
everything's
follow a
grandfathered
plan.
until it sells, right?
Correct, yeah, but it has to be part of a plan, and that's what staff needs is, what plan do you want? Because if you wanna change the zoning and land use, I agree, we should do that. But unless we have a full plan of we're gonna do this, there's no point in changing any of the land use of what we want guided use.
Well, and I think that would be important for the residents. Feedback is like, okay, we're thinking commercial along Robinson Street, we're thinking whatever behind that. What do they want commercial along Robinson Street, or would they rather just have all houses, as an
Do
example?
the people want it?
Yeah.
You gotta find that out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like, do they really want some things to move in along Robinson Street that are commercial, or would they rather just have homes and?
Lucero has also said to me that if he had these 2 lots, he could put a
I don't think that
fourplex
was
there.
over well.
Yeah.
He could put a fourplex there and with a restaurant underneath it. But you gotta get that restaurant guy that's gonna come in there and do it.
Yeah.
And just because you put the building there doesn't mean somebody's gonna do it.
We're all forgetting that we've already approved this guy to buy this piece, this kid.
I understand that. No, I'm talking, I'm on
Okay,
that.
I got you now, I got you.
But you gotta go to the kid, and say, okay, this is what we want. We don't
Yeah,
want your
we'll
single
go to
family
the
home.
applicant first before we
Right.
say we're scrapping the whole thing, because we have,
Yeah.
that's,
Right.
by process
But you have to
and
do
by
that.
proxy, we should do that. There won't be any difference on that aspect. That's what we need to have is general guidance. If this is what we want, if this is the framework plan, that's what you guys want to do, that's fantastic, that's great. Then we should start here and say, this is what we want. If you want to change something on this plan and say, we're already looking at doing this here and this here and this differently, then we make those changes first, then go to the residents.
And I'm
But
guessing.
I agree with what Jim is saying, is that we need to have some sort of plan, or what plan are we backing? Are we backing this one? Are we doing amendments to the village framework plan first, and then go to the residents and say, here's what we're thinking, please tell us before we get too far into that.
Yeah.
And we can do that, actual physical, plan and approval of that at the next meeting, the EDA meeting on the 21st. I believe that's the date.
I mean, it looks
We
like.
just can't make official action today, so today is for direction, so that I can figure out and staff can figure out what our next steps are, so we can provide the right guiding tools to get you to where you want without taking 6 months to a year. That's what I don't want to have happen. Then it just gets dragged out, and then everyone gets tired of it at the end, and it goes, okay, whatever, I don't care. And then, then it doesn't work. That's honestly what happens. If it takes so long, people just get, their mindset gets over it, and they're like, I don't even care, just get it done.
Right.
I mean, this Levy Street thing needs to get settled because construction's coming pretty quick.
He's gonna wanna be on it.
Somebody's gonna, yeah. I mean, we got two people that wanna do something, and they're just waiting to be
I mean,
told what they
But we had
can.
2 bids on it. The first one didn't bid enough, second one bid enough. But we gotta make sure it fits in our plan too.
You got it, yeah. We tell them what we want. That's the idea of having a plan.
How do you tell a guy who wants to have a single-family house, now you gotta build a full unit house?
So to me, what it looks
That's
like,
you
what
just
we're-
tell 'em.
You just
Yeah.
tell them, yeah.
Sounds like you just did.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what you think.
When you got a guy that comes in with bad brakes or a bad spindle, and you say, well, can you fix that spindle, or do we gotta get a new one? That's your choice. Right?
But he bought it on the pretense that it was gonna be a single-family home.
We had to
Well, he hasn't bought it.
He sent an RFP in that he said he would like to put a single family home on it, and that was the RFP that was approved. That does not mean we sold it to him as a single
yeah.
family.
And then we came back and said, let's hold because we're looking at
We're
this
looking at
plan.
changing.
He hasn't bought
changing
it.
the
Is there an actual purchase agreement written on the purchase?
No.
Okay, so
There's
that's
nothing.
not,
There is written up but not signed or anything, and it has not been approved
Okay.
by.
so then there's nothing, okay.
There's nothing.
I mean, I think it really comes down to when you look at how you want things guided. Is that area going to be guided? How's that area going to be guided? And what we would like to see, because right now, it's guided mixed use, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the whole
And
area.
so
The
the
whole
whole area is, and so that means you can do more or less anything.
Yep.
So then, that to me, that's the first question: should it just be you can more or less do anything in the historic village, or do we want to have some actual guided, something that makes sense? And then if that lot is actually high density or whatever would qualify for what Lucero wants to do, then we'd say, the young guy, look, you can build this because it's not single family anymore.
Well, he can only build like a 2-unit, do you think, I don't
You
think he
could
can
probably
get 4
you
on
could probably get 3 on there.
there. Yeah,
Okay, so you could either build a 3-unit. I mean, I think you got to
If we
give
get
him the
3 attached,
option.
that's better
don't
than
you?
a
Right.
swift kick in the ass.
Absolutely it is.
I mean,
You still got to give him the option to say,
Yeah.
we've changed. That we went through the plan. We've changed it. You have an option to build this kind of density. If he doesn't want to, then Lucero's next in line. Lucero.
Yeah,
can buy
Lucero's
it.
gonna put 2 on his for sure.
Okay.
And if you get 3 on that one, you got 5 out of the 6. I mean, you're
So it's close, but I mean, and my guess is the young fellow might come back and say, "Well, I'm not really interested in that. I'm
Yeah.
only interested in a single family."
That's fine.
So you solved
That's
the
fine.
problem.
Right.
But you just gotta. I think we've got to decide what's the guided use for these areas.
yeah, if you do the plan, I can figure out the densities in the land
Right.
use or with guided use around. That's not a big deal. We just need to know what plan do you want? What would you like to see there? And then we can change the guided use when we do the land use plan amendment. That's not a big deal at all. Those things are not difficult. But if your plan is, okay, we want medium density there, that's great, then I'll change that on the land use when we go through it. I don't know why it wasn't done that way during the 2040 comp plan, but it wasn't, so
Probably just never gave it enough thought.
probably not. But it's good to have exact breakdowns of what you want, because it makes it much easier to say yes or no, does that work with what?
From the
our
city's
values?
perspective.
Correct.
Yeah.
'Cause it's either gonna work.
Let's reach out to this kid. And say, hey,
We
look,
will, once we get a plan.
Once you have the plan.
Once we get a plan, and he's aware of it, so we've been communicating back and
So I
forth.
mean, to me, the first thing is to say, do you really look along Robinson Street? Could we, I don't know if we can or not, but could you agree you want commercial or whatever, or some kind of mixed use commercial in apartment buildings or whatever it is?
Yeah, so if you don't know which one, then you would use the mixed use guidelines.
Okay.
Because then it could be either or. It
Could
could
be
be high
either
density, or it could be a commercial business. That's where the mixed use comes in really, really well, is that it could be one or the other, but it can't be a single family home. If
Right.
it gets redeveloped, it can stay as it sits today forever. So somebody could sell their house,
Right.
resell it 50 times over and over and over again. But when they want to redevelop it, then it has to follow the guided use.
And to me, it's like maybe the only thing you're caring about or looking at are the first 2 blocks coming off of Robin Street in either direction. Once you're past that, I would say it's residential.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, why
And
not?
like I said, unless somebody comes in with a great thing and they
Different
want to
plan.
wipe out all these houses and put up a giant high-rise building, then we might say, oh yeah, that works great.
Well, yeah, and then for sure, you know, you're gonna have to do sewer.
But then, correct. That's what I mean, is that there's bounds as well that we know that's gonna happen.
So, what's the first step?
So the first step, I think, is what plan do you like? Which I agree with Jim's aspect of what plan do you like? So we can go to the residents. Then the second step is get the residents' feedback. And then once we get all that, then we can figure out, okay, are we gonna have a third party do this? Or are we gonna do this ourselves? Because that way you'll know. Because if the residents make no changes and you guys are good with this plan, then fantastic. Then we did our thing and we're good.
What would you
Plucking
send them?
away at
Start
it.
plucking away at it. You got it. But
Go ahead.
When do we
No,
want?
no,
What would you
So,
send them? Would you send them this?
yeah, right there, that's what we got.
unless you want changes, like I said, we would send this unless you guys want changes. So we, and if there was changes, we would like obviously point to that and say, okay, instead of high density here, we'd want to,
Right.
we're going to look at doing a commercial business there. That's what we'd like to see. And so the mailers is a questionnaire. I think is more or less, well, how long are you going to stay here? Are you planning to sell anytime soon? What is
Yeah,
your,
that's
you know,
That's once you have the plan.
if they
yeah,
fill it
age
out.
demographic, if they fill it out, you know, it's just to gather information. The meeting is to gather feedback. Because the mailers will help us with, helping out. Can we do this thing in the next 10 years, or is it gonna take us 25 years and now we know?
So what I see on this plan is right along Robinson Street, it looks like it's, I guess, mostly mixed use, is that what
Yep.
this plan
Correct,
says?
yep. That is
And then
mixed
what's
use
the
or-
next block back? I mean, I can't really tell, it's brown.
So next block back, if you're looking north to south, the north side is half of each block is high density and the other half is medium density. So basically, if I look on the map here, this house and this house would be high density. If I'm looking on the map here, I'll try to do my best to zoom in here. So these two houses would be high density, based on the plan, and then these two houses, and I'm using the Levy Street one as an
Those are the
example.
lots.
That would be medium density based on the plan, and it's exactly flip-flopped on the other side of Baxter. These two are high density, and these two are medium density. That's based on this plan. The other way down on the south side is high density on the other side of Robinson Street, which I don't know what that other street is. So this is Robinson Street, and then this block here. I don't know if they have they have it divided in half. So this half back here would be high density homes, and then there'd be an alleyway parking lot behind all these businesses here in this area. We just use this block as an example.
But
So
not on the other side.
nope, there'd be nothing on the other side, at least from what I can tell. The drawing makes it look like it's a very large block, and it is not really that
Right.
large, so it may or
No,
may not
it's-
work.
The plan's not, that plan isn't really bad.
No, I mean, I don't think so either. There's some things, I don't know that you
It-
need the roundabout down there, but you probably do need something, like if you're gonna have that pedestrian walkway down Baxter Street, you'd need some kind of flashing light or speed bump on Robinson so people aren't getting, so they know
Yeah,
that
so that
that's
looks like a boulevard down Baxter. And so if that's the case, we'd have to expand Baxter. I think that's why some of the right of way was accomplished with sidewalk and stuff on one side, but maybe not the other. Both, but we'd have to probably expand Baxter a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit to get if you wanted to have, looks like a walkway or something, some sort of green space down the center.
Yeah.
So basically a center sidewalk versus having a sidewalk on both sides of the road. And that would take some redevelopment, so but again, those are all things that can come a long time when we get a developer in
right.
and have them put some effort.
But I mean, I think what you were saying is like, to me, this plan from a guided use perspective seems reasonable. Maybe we want to change a few things, but then, when you get into the details of do you need the roundabout or some of those things, I would say you probably don't. And I don't know how, do we want to get into that detail before we take something to the residents?
I think it's more focused on the businesses or what you want in the lots. But the roundabout is I don't think we would sell all of this corner just in case it's there, but we would kind of in quotes leave it there in the plan unless you guys absolutely hate it, we take it out. But if you put a house or a business on the corner there, and then in 20 years you want to do it, you ain't having it happen.
Oh, right.
So
It's gonna cost more to do it.
yeah. That's the idea, is to try to save money long term, not spend more.
So what do you want this questionnaire to say?
So that we can come up with questions. So I think that would be a task for you guys to come up with some questions or things you want to ask. I mean, obviously the ones would be like, how long are you planning on staying? Are you, do you have family that is intended to buy your house? Are you planning on selling? Blah, 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 blah.
would you like to see
Well, we need a hook.
redevelopment of the area?
Yeah.
We need a hook to these people and say, in the efforts to serve you better, we need questions answered.
Sure.
If you decide not to answer them, we'll make choices.
Sure.
That's how we got to approach these guys and say, I get it. You know, you probably don't want to answer these questions. You want your privacy. You don't. It's not the city's business how long you're going to stay and all this stuff, but they have to know why.
You just have to be careful how you word it. So you don't,
Yeah.
your feedback is very important to us.
Feedback is critical to how we make these next decisions.
I mean, I think we just send Scott door to door with a questionnaire.
Right after each breakfast, because you know how he gets before breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you
I have my
take this
coffee.
vision, like say this plan or whatever it is, people are gonna know, I mean, they're gonna look at that and say,
My God, that's
I'm
not gonna
80
happen
years
in-
old and I'm gonna, I just wanna sell my land or whatever, They're gonna start coming up with their own.
And then one of the questions is, if you do want to, if you do see this as a thing we're going to move forward on, are you interested in letting the city purchase your property?
Sure.
Because at that point, there's no one guy here. I don't even care if it's a Cicero. There's no one guy who's got enough here to do much of anything unless you own the whole block. So if we're going to do a small area plan, what's he going to do? Small area plan on his stuff? Well, then it doesn't even meet the block because he doesn't even own a full block yet on any of his pieces.
Nope.
McNeil's the biggest probably block landowner yet because of his one building.
He owns the 3 buildings on that one block, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
You know,
really,
is that
that's all
purple?
you're doing, that's all we should be doing is putting the guidance down on what should be there, and then as things sell and or change, whatever
should-
has
we
to
should
go
be
up
the
there has to
facilitators.
meet the, I mean,
Or it could be the.
I'm not opposed to the city buying some lots if it makes sense, but to me, it's more about putting the framework there and letting the public decide what the hell they're gonna do, like, if this house comes down, the only thing that can go up is commercial or high density, as an example. That's my only option. So I'm not gonna buy that house unless I'm gonna do that. I mean, because right now, like Lucero could buy those houses along Robinson Street, and he can just leave them as a house, right? But if we changed it, if he bought them, would he have to?
No.
He'd have to.
You
They'd
can't
still
force
be
them
able
out.
to
Yep,
keep them, but if he ever
If it
did
stays
anything
the way it
new-
is, there's nothing that we can do to change it.
Right.
If they ever want to change the use or anything on that property related to the building and redevelop it or tear down, if they want to tear down their house and build a new one, ain't happening.
I mean,
Isn't that the difference between a CUP and an IUP though?
Nope.
If my shop goes down and I can sell it to another shop owner, that carries with the land. There's no sunset on that.
This
Yep,
commercial
right,
is
CUP.
different.
On that aspect, yep.
Oh.
So none of these have a CUP or IUP over them. So the CUP carried with the land. So like, for example, you have an auto shop on your property.
Yep.
If your thing burns down and you want to sell it to another auto shop, you can do that. And it runs with the land.
I got it.
And an
I got it.
IUP would be if somebody wants to do an auto shop and you do an IUP, and then your shop burns down. As soon as that happens and you change hands, you've lost everything. You don't get
Interim use.
Yeah, you don't
Okay.
get to.
And that don't apply here because this is,
None of these things have CUPs or IUPs on any of these properties currently.
do we engage that with these?
We would do that if it was a change of use. If it was like we want to permit it and say, okay.
Well, we're going from residential to commercial.
Totally, yeah, totally, that doesn't have anything to do with it. It would be like, if a different type of business wanted to go in there, say an auto parts store or something wanted to go in there, we may want to CUP that so that we know that it'll always be an auto parts store. Or we may want to IUP that to check in and say, okay, are you going to be here in 5 years? And if it's an IUP, then it changes with the land or a sunset date.
So we need to make the questions to see what these people want to do. Per Scott's, let's figure out what they want. Let's ask them.
So the first question is, what do you guys want?
Right.
It's the plan.
I
And
think that's
then we
the
can
most-
ask the residents, what do you want? Because if
I'm okay with running with this. Maybe some tweaks here and there, but we got to ask those questions before we get too deep into this.
Okay, so the direction that I need is, are you good with this plan if we say this is what we're gonna start with?
Yep.
We can, if
Yes.
there's any comments, please let me know, if you'd like to make any changes. So
So that's my question to you. If
we-
we say we want to go with this plan,
Yep.
should we think about any of the tweaks before we put it in front
Exactly,
of?
that's what I'm asking.
Before we
So
put it in front of people or not?
Between now and the 21st, which is the next council meeting, or next EDA meeting.
Well, that's next week.
Nope, 2 weeks. So not next week.
Oh,
Not next
okay.
Tuesday,
Yeah, 2
following
weeks.
Tuesday.
How are we going to know what to go?
I need to know, and I want you guys to come to the comments to the next EDA meeting if you have any about this plan. I want to change this, and then we can vote on it and motion on it and make changes. You know, I don't like this high-density building being here.
Yeah.
Then just make a note of it, and we'll talk about it at the next EDA meeting. And then we can come up, okay, Hunter doesn't like this area being mixed use. Does anybody have other problem with that? Okay, yep, we do, so now we have to figure out, what do we want there instead of mixed use? We want to have a commercial business there. Great, now we know that, so I can put a big X there, amend it, adjust it, and then when we send it to the residents, now we say, here's what we'd like to do.
Yeah.
And if the residents are good with it, and we're good with it, and we have good direction, and we have the council on board with it at that point, then we can make those land use amendments to get it to be exactly what we want, and not a general blob of mixed use, which
I think that
I'm
makes sense.
fine with. It makes total sense as long as the council's on board too, so
Yeah.
that's the big other board that's
And I
above
think
us.
when
but-
you explain it to the residents, we need to explain that, you know, even if we're changing, like, say, a block or two to commercial versus mixed use, that just means, like, doesn't mean that your house is gonna be torn down or
Nope.
anything like that. It just means that if
Yeah.
We
you
don't scare
ever
'em
tear
into
your
it.
house down, the only thing that can go back
There's,
there
I
is
don't,
commercial.
there's not gonna be eminent domain in any of this stuff.
No.
So it's all gonna be willing as you go through. That's just what it is, which is fine. And that's how we wanna run it, that's good. I think that makes
I don't
sense.
see the need to change anything on that plan because 20 years from now, something's gonna be different anyway.
Right.
Everybody in this room is gonna be different. Somebody's
yeah.
gonna say, oh, I don't like that, I'm gonna,
5 years from now, that could be the case, you
yeah.
know.
And my only caution would be figure 5.2 in the plan, that the whole Levy Street is completely changed, and there isn't a single house that is there currently on Levy Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if I was coming to a meeting and I saw that for the first time, it would be, what?
Sure. And none of this is
Define
forced.
that for me.
None of this is,
Define that.
Yeah, but
I'm saying
that,
all the brown
Yeah,
is.
but they don't know that when they get it.
they don't know that when they get it. See where it looks like there's like two high-density buildings kind of in a half moon right along the river.
Yep.
Well, that's the grandstand thing, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, you're looking at the right spot.
Okay.
But if I was a homeowner there,
If I was a homeowner
yeah.
and I lived right there,
Yeah, right.
I think that, oh my God, my house is getting taken out.
Right,
And I
right.
understand that, but
Yeah.
this is again,
it's just an
I,
idea.
I,
Idea.
I am wondering, and I don't know this, but
maybe that'll get them to come out to the meeting.
if we have a meeting, we ask for a meeting with the residents, what is the response gonna be? I mean, will most of them come, do you think?
I think the landowners will, whether the renters do or not, is another question.
You're gonna get to Lucero and Tim McNeil there.
Yeah, let's go there.
You might get 5 or 6 other
You're
residents
gonna
there,
have
but
Rick-
I don't think you're gonna have a
Rick
super
Durant's
great
gonna
big
be there,
turnout.
Some of the
Yeah.
people that have lived there.
It'll be held at the community center, so it's
Yeah.
easy to get to. So it's not like it's
Easy to get to.
They can
Easy
walk.
to get to and walk. Yeah, it's not gonna be a long drive.
I mean, instead of going to the bar that night, maybe they'll come to the meeting.
And
If you had the bar, if you had the meeting at the bar, they'd all be there.
we would encourage all the EDA members to be there, so that
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
provide feedback and stuff. It'll be an open meeting. And when I say meeting, I should say, it'll be a listening session for the EDA.
You need to be on your best behavior.
So one of the things,
Oh, you
just to
picking on
follow
me?
up
Good
on
luck
what
on
Jim's
that.
saying, would we be better off, you know, you take essentially this plan and just put guided use for, you know, like the guided use they have without the drawings of what the buildings are gonna look like and all that, just say, you know, hey, this block is guided use this block's guided use that. Then people aren't
People
gonna get
sometimes don't know what
excited
that
about.
means, so
No.
that's
Right.
my only, I don't disagree with your comment, and I think that's a good aspect. What we could do is provide 2 maps of the same thing, and provide, this is what it looks like, here's what it looks like on a map. For, okay, this is high density, this is medium density, so that they have an idea of, okay, this is what it looks like when we say medium density, it's row homes, or townhomes, or a
Right.
quadplex, or
Yeah, so,
But really, if we keep this, sorry, and we go to them and we show this to them, it's not like we just magically came up with this. Like we're just,
Well, this is
we're just,
2004.
yeah, we're just taking a plan that's already here and we just are
They ain't gonna get
doing
that.
something with it.
People don't pay attention to this.
But I feel like a lot of people are gonna say like, what the heck did they come up with?
First
What's
thing they're gonna do
this?
is go, where's my house? What? They put, just
Yeah.
like you're saying.
Yep,
That's exactly what they do.
that's
Yeah.
what they do.
And the reason for my question about how many people will show up is because in my mind, if I'm a homeowner, I would, and I get this survey that they're looking for a response for,
Which they already made their mind up on.
this town hall meeting or information meeting, it seems like it should come first.
I agree.
And then we say, we are sending a mailing to all of you, and we ask that you would respond by this date. And these are the questions we're looking to get feedback on. But it's on this plan, you know. So rather than send out a mailing and then have a
Yeah, I agree
town
with
meeting.
that.
That sound good to everybody? To do a mailing afterwards?
Yeah,
That's what I-
fine.
And we could
Okay.
explain the mailing at the meeting.
We could have it at the meeting too for people to fill
Yeah,
out.
We could,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's actually better, I think.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know if we'll, if we do it at the meeting, then we might, if we do it both, then we might get two of them. So we could say, just ignore it if you get it. 'Cause
Right.
I still think we want to send it out because I don't know how much participation we're going to get. We might get a lot. That'd be great. That's the hope, is that we get a lot. But
Is there, I mean, I know this is electronic, but is there any way to get bigger, like, to me?
I will do it as best
it'll
as I
get
can. I'll
blown
try to
out.
get it like this, so you can actually see what it actually looks like. And
Yeah.
we'll probably do two figures or something, like half of it is basically Robinson Street will be divided, and this half will be this, and this other half will be this, you know.
Maybe you make it smaller so you can confuse them more, huh?
Right.
I don't know where these concept plans are at, so I'll have to do some digging and
Yeah,
research on that.
that's what I'm wondering, if we're gonna have to have someone actually do it.
Or you can just
do
enlarge it
for
too.
us, you know?
Yeah, I could probably just cut it and enlarge it. I
Would
probably
it-
do that. I
would
just don't
it-
want it to get too pixelated. We can't like, what the
Right.
heck is that? It's a blob of.
Right.
Yeah.
So when do we want to have this meeting?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
Yep, that's the next question I have. So I don't know if we, like I said, I don't know if we wait till the 21st and then you can decide on the 21st, or you'll probably, you don't need to technically take action to set a meeting.
April,
I was gonna say April sometime.
yeah.
Probably.
Sooner the better.
No, not sooner the better. There's no rush to get there. There's nobody building.
April's
The
fine.
The only one that's
Yeah.
building, the only one that's holding up on this is the Levy Street property.
Right.
That's the one that's holding
I
up.
think
on
we're
the
already,
process.
I think we're already know the direction that we want to go there.
And we can make that, if you want to do that, then we can do that, but we have to have
I mean,
direction at an official meeting.
I think, yeah.
Well, maybe that's what we do at our next meeting. I think we need to decide on what
Okay.
we believe the guided use should be by block, you know?
I think, yeah, if you come
And-
back on the 21st, that's your homework from now until the 21st, that's a week and a half from now, is to tell, what do you not, if it's just, I want high density here, or a building looks like this here, or whatever, that's fine, we can figure out the land and guided use off of that. But
What's
if you-
technically the difference between medium and high density?
So it's the number of units per acre.
Yeah,
So
so
high
that's-
density is 12
12
plus.
and one's 8.
And one's 8. So 8
Okay,
units
so
per
right
acre
now, the Levy stuff would be medium.
would be medium density, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
And medium density.
Based on what you're.
When you
Yep.
think of medium density, it would either be townhomes or quadplexes as typically medium density, based on square footage, and by the time you get a driveway in there and access and stuff. Typically, it's quadplexes or townhomes, or row homes, or whatever you wanna call them. And then high density is apartment buildings, because it has to go up.
So would it be, I'm just thinking as a citizen, you know, like people that don't maybe have the knowledge you have, is like, it seems like if we explain things in that manner, it would make a hell of a lot more sense to them to say, you know, commercial or mixed use, this is what this means.
Yep. That would be.
This area is medium density, that's what this means. This is high I mean, I don't even see any really high density. I hear it has high density, but
There's
are
basically.
we really, I mean, that would be the
5
thing I think we
buildings.
gotta decide at the next meeting. I don't know, in my opinion, that high density is necessary anywhere
There's
except for along
4 or
Robinson
5
Street.
buildings that are high density on this
Yeah.
map, and that's it.
Well, that's gonna be some pretty big, a big developer, some big money there to
Yeah.
come in with something like that. Which, in all honesty, if you had a high density building there, it's gonna make it that much easier for a business owner to wanna be
To
in
survive.
town.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
No
So-
question, I don't disagree with that.
But you also need to get the developer to go in there and Because, I mean, that's a lot of money for
Oh.
high density.
Yeah.
And we can, there's incentive programs, we can do TIF, we can do tax abatement if we feel like that's something that we really need this done and we can get some sort of public benefit out of it. We can use TIF. I don't know if the council loves TIF, to be honest, but if it's for a redevelopment thing or something, that's the sell is. If we don't do this, then we don't get anything. So it's the trade-off of,
Right.
okay, if this is worth it to us and we think we can do this something long-term with this, then we can utilize some of our resources of TIF or tax abatement to be able to do programs in there to fund some of those things.
Define abatement.
Abatement is where we have to, so TIF is we get a public
financing.
benefit for it. Abatement is just, we want you here, so we're going to ask the county and the school district to pitch in their taxes for a set number of time along with us. So we're willing to abate our taxes. We have to request the county and the school district to do the same thing. And sometimes they work, and it's to attract businesses only. That's, a tax abatement is basically, it's 100%, we're not getting any public benefit, but we are having this business in town, that's our benefit, long term.
Or a TIF, it's a third, a third, a third.
TIF is not a third. TIF is we're getting a public benefit, like they're gonna repave this road for us. So we would say that's an eligible TIF cost. Whereas abatement, there doesn't have to be any eligible cost at all, it's just strictly a mechanism to get businesses in town. But it works the same way as TIF does. We would abate our taxes for.
A certain
I could have
number
done
of
that
years.
before I
You
bought
got it,
that building.
So on
So,
this-
yeah,
On this plan here, the only high density are these two,
Two there, and then there's two here.
these back here.
Yep, and then one there, that's it. So there's 5 total.
So these,
Yep, those 3, and then the other 2 on this
These
list.
two,
Yep,
okay.
that's it. There's not a lot of high density, a lot of it's medium, but those 2 high densities get.
and then everything back here is
All
kind of
single
residential.
Single family doesn't change, yeah, at least based on the plan. We could change that, but it looks like the outside skirts, at least to me, this plan, don't change that.
Is there any plans at the
Activity center.
fire department center back there? Is it gonna do a change?
If we did any change there, most likely, depending on densities in this area, we could either do it as a public parking area, so parking garage, so people can park and then walk, similar to what Anoka has, or Ramsey has, is that we make a municipal parking lot. Or we leave it as it is and revamp it to do whatever, because I don't know what long-term for the fire department looks like, or activity center looks like, but fire department there probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense long-term.
Are they-
30 years, I mean, talking.
Are they entertaining a third or an actual bigger fire department? Anyplace else in town?
Not at the current moment.
Depends
We're
on what
working-
day you talk 'em.
Yeah.
Because
The idea-
that's a
the
big
long-
factor, because we own that. and
Yeah, we do, yep. So long-term, the idea would be to have 2 centrally located east and west, but one on the north side, one on the south side of town. That's the long-term vision goal, which makes a lot of sense because we can serve then as a radius, X amount of minutes in a radius would be the similar on top and the bottom. Right now, they're just set out where our municipal buildings are, and so that works currently, but we are lacking a station on the south side of town, which I don't think anybody doesn't know, but it's when can we access that area for a fire department? Because that would be one, and then we would get rid of this one and that one at the same time. And
And
repurpose
this wouldn't be there. 50 years from now, that may not be there.
That may not be there.
Right.
I would suggest it probably won't be there in 50 years.
Right.
That building.
City
It'll
turn it
either be
into something.
redeveloped into a total
Something
big
different,
activity
yeah.
center, community center area that's gonna be much bigger and not a fire department. Or it'll be a parking lot, or it'll be something
Which,
sold and said, that's great for high density because it's hidden
Right.
by the hill or something.
Right.
I don't know.
and a
just-
community center wouldn't make
I don't
sense
see the
either.
bar being there too much longer either.
It
Not
might
unless,
not.
not unless someone buys it and redoes it or something, you know? I mean,
Do you have the direction you need?
Yes, I got it. Yep. So basically, it's on the 21st. We'll figure out exactly do we want with the plan. That'll be the goal. So the 21st brings me back ideas. If you love it as it sits today, fantastic. We'll go with that. Then we'll set up a meeting sometime in April, and so I'll put some dates out for April that works for everybody, and see if we can get a guideline for a date to get resident feedback.
yeah.
And then after
Probably
that-
evening, you thinking for,
Yep, it could be evening to the day, whatever we think is going to be best. And fine
I
with
mean,
me.
I don't know, whenever you get the most people to show up, I suppose.
Well, you can't do a day meeting for
Well, that's what I'm
that.
saying, for residents, you'd have to do like a
Yeah,
seven.
It's gotta be like a 6:30 at night.
6:30.
Oh, you can't do 7. Half the people will be in bed by 7.
Well, 6, whatever.
Yeah. We could also do it being like we could do a 5:30.
It might be in
You tried to
bed.
get that last night.
And we can do a 5:30 start or a
12:30.
5 o'clock start and provide dinner. That's fine. That's allowed. So we can do that. We want to provide dinner or something that we did. We do that at the open house. We provide hot dogs for everybody and chips.
That might be a good incentive.
It might be people that come in for that.
Oh, they
That's fine.
come for.
For free food,
For
they'll
free
show
food,
up.
they-
Where do you live? Plymouth?
Yep, correct. So we could do that, but like I said, sometime in April, so I'll put together some dates and we can decide that on the 21st. At the 21st meeting, also, we have somebody coming from the Hennepin County Elevate program. They'll be here to talk and give us a speech.
On the 21st?
Yeah, 21st, yeah. They're part of a business assistance program, I think is what their overall thing is, and so they want to come and speak. I talked to.
That's the meeting I missed.
Yep, the meeting. Yep, so they want to come and speak at the 21st. So there'll be a presentation there from Hennepin County. Different than Deed, Clean Eddy. This is Hennepin County now. So there's some programs for business owners, for starting businesses, different grant programs for businesses to go from 1 employee to 99 employees, something like that. Different tutoring programs that they can have for business owners to be able to help them get off the ground and do some different things. So.
Which might fit into some of this.
Might, yep, very well might.
And what about our traction on our grant that we applied for? Did we get anything for the
I have not
internet?
heard back. That was closed. It closes
It was supposed to be closed by
today.
this time.
Nope, closes today. So I had to apply for it by the end of January. That was the broadband grant.
Right.
Through Hennepin County to be able to expand broadband to some of our areas that don't have broadband or fiber in the ground. I have not heard back yet. So it's due today. I would hope I'd hear by next week or the following week.
So we should put that in our 21st meeting as a.
I will have it up.
We have it or we don't. Yeah, yeah.
Because we need that, you know. No, really, your net's down.
Yeah, so the 21st.
You're not
we'll have
supposed to
those
be
two things.
personal
And
with
then
Hey,
anybody.
say it. I'm doing it for you. You're doing it for me. We got this.
Starlink works pretty good.
And after that, after we get the resident
I went
feedback,
to
like I said,
that.
we'll do mailers, figure out that process, and then we can go from there to say, okay, are we gonna do this thing, or are we gonna have a third party do this thing to figure it out? And at this point, I think it's kinda leaning that we're gonna finish it up, just to follow through the process, and maybe we get lots of feedback and say we need to have a third party do it, which is fine, but then have some sort of adjustment here, and then we can do land use amendments if we're all on the same page and council's on the same page, then we can do land use amendments when we do that land use comp plan amendment, which will be sometime this summer.
But that ain't our gig. It's
Nope, that's council.
council, not planning.
Not plan, oh, it would technically be planning and council, but
I see.
EDA would suggest, so here's what the plan would be, this is what we'd love to see, and then we would adjust land uses on that.
Does the planning have a right to veto that?
They can have a
They can
recommendation.
change.
Oh,
They have a
Yeah.
recommendation power.
Yeah.
They don't have any actual authority.
right, yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Correct. They have recommendation power, so they could say, no, we don't think that's great, but
Have they picked your
Kind of
chair
like at
yet?
home with your wife. Do you have recommendations?
Yeah.
But she decides.
But that's it. So 21st will be a busy meeting. We'll have quite a few going on, quite a bit of things going on. So just have some feedback ready for us, and we'll go from there.
I want to add one more thing for that. You go first.
I just want to know if they chaired the,
They did not. No,
they haven't made that decision yet.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay, go ahead.
Seeing as how this is a work session, what's the appetite? And this should be about a 30-second conversation, really. What's the appetite for about 5 or 6 100-gallon flower pots in Old Town?
What are they called?
100-gallon flower pots.
Oh.
I want to dress up that. Just
I
this summer, have some flower pots.
I don't have an issue
Just
with it.
jack it up a little bit.
I think it'd be great.
As long as we ain't growing cannabis in there.
They don't have flowers.
Hey, whoa, did I? That shows you what I
I
know.
mean,
They don't have blooms.
Shows you what I know.
Honestly, Scott, back when we very first became EDA, that was one of the recommendations, was
Yep.
flower pots and maybe some banners on the.
Yes.
On the.
I remember
Well,
that
there's no
meeting.
light. There's no poles in town. Though, is there?
Telephone.
Well, we don't own them.
So the problem is the
Problem
county
is
owns
it's
them.
Hennepin
Yeah.
County's
And they won't let us
telephone
put stuff on
poles
there.
and supposedly.
We own the sidewalks though, so we could put a flower pot on the sidewalk or next to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Or
No,
I think
like
a
100-gallon or big
Yep.
ones.
You all right with it? I'm all right with that.
I think
You want
it
to put
makes
that on the next
sense.
meeting for
I mean,
approval?
Yeah, you can
At
spend. I
least
have
lets
no
people
idea what the
driving
cost, but
through
the
know
EDA would spend
something's
that money.
happening, you know?
That's
Maybe
right.
how small it is.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Flower pots.
Are we good?
You all good? Flower pots?
Do you have these flower pots?
No,
Or
no.
we need to get them?
We'd have to go buy them. That's no big deal. I haven't even looked at what they are. I don't have
Well,
any idea.
every
Plant
time
the
you have
flowers.
Hennepin,
I
or
mean, the
Crown
only
Days,
really
or-
concern, I don't think.
You
it's
want
the
some of that
cost to
nice and stuff
Put
in
them in is just having.
Just to buy the
city
pot.
parks Watering
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
do that when they're doing the parks anyways. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Marty's, he'd water them.
Yeah, the pots are not expensive.
They might be $100 a piece, maybe. I don't know.
We can have some of our seasonal.
100.
My wife would say, you haven't been out shopping lately.
You're in a building phase, you know, it's 10 times more expensive.
Anything else for this meeting? Otherwise, I think we're good.
No more, pots are good then, all right?
Yeah.
Said there'll be some stuff on the 21st.
We need to
we'll
vote
actually
on the
take a-
pod thing on the meeting?
Yep.
At the meeting we will.
Take the meeting. We can't make any action at a work session, so it's always just good for general discussion, but that's about it.
Yeah, that'd be good, I think.
Cool.
We're gonna call this meeting now. It is adjourned.